Hi, everyone. And good evening to those of you on the East Coast, and good afternoon to everybody on the West Coast. Thanks, everybody, for taking time out of your day to join us today. For those of you who are just joining us this evening, my name is Brenda Moynihan, and I'm the Director of Marketing and Outreach at the Kensington Assisted Living here in White Plains, New York. Tonight's presentation is called A Caregiver's Guide to Cultivating SoulFULLness, featuring Dr. James Rouse. Tonight is part 5 of this 6-part series, and it's called Most Excellent Gene Expression to Create a Life You Love. Clean those dirty genes and change the trajectory of your life with actions and words. Please remember to mark your calendar next Wednesday, which will be session 6, our last session of the series, at 6:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And before I introduce our speaker, I'd like to give you some brief information about Kensington Senior Living, or KSL for short, again, for those of you just joining us this evening. Kensington Senior Living was founded in 2010 by a leadership team with over 25 years of experience developing and operating premier senior living residences in the U.S. and abroad. The KSL promise to love and care for your family as we do our own is core to the belief that no aspect of caregiving is more important than partnership with our residents and their families at every stage of aging. This 6-part series is brought to you through the collaboration of several of the Kensington Senior Living communities, including locations in White Plains, New York, Redwood City, Redondo Beach, and Sierra Madre in California, and in Reston, Virginia. In all of our communities, we are committed to providing outstanding care every day with the full spectrum of clinical support, including caring for those with Alzheimer's and additional dementias. And again, for those of you just joining us this evening, please stay until the very end, and we'll put up a slide with contact information of our speaker, Dr. James Rouse, including his Facebook group information. And the Facebook group is called Soulful You, if you'd like to sign up. And we'll also have some contact information of the Kensington Senior Living communities. And now I'm honored to welcome Dr. James Rouse, our speaker for this evening, and give you some brief information about him. Dr. James, as he likes to be called, loves living, teaching, and sharing his passion for practicing a high-performing life of purpose. Dr. James expresses his expertise in epigenetics, you'll find out tonight, regenerative and functional medicine in a heart-centered, practical and inspired fashion. He is a naturopathic physician, award-winning author, chef, and motivational speaker. As Dr. James puts it, we are all more than who we are, and we all have gold in us. Please join me in welcoming Dr. James and having him help us recognize that gold within us.
Hey, Brenda.
James, hi, how are you?
I'm doing great. How are you tonight?
I'm fantastic, fantastic.
You know what? I'm so excited about tonight. I love the little adage about the cleaning your genes. People are going, oh my goodness, that's...
Well, clean away.
Right, like, scrub them away. My mom used to call them dungarees when I was a little boy. I'm not sure if anyone remembers the term dungarees, but Brenda, thank you. And thanks, Kensington. Thanks for the whole team. I feel enveloped by possibility tonight. I think tonight may be one of those walkaways when you go, oh my goodness, this is sort of like my opportunity for the great do-over. And if people have kind of been studying anything to do with the latest research and relationship to genetics, they're probably going, oh my gosh, I've been hearing more and more about this idea of the biology of belief and how we get an opportunity to kind of orchestrate a lot of our gene expression. And if you're anything like me, oh my gosh, when I started learning about this about 20 years ago, and literally in the last probably 5 years though, it's gone from pretty cool to now like, oh my goodness, this is life-changing science and research that talks about the power of our choices. almost regardless of whatever genetic history or dirty genes you may be presently wearing or carrying around with you. I want people to know this is why I love this topic for so many reasons, but personally, and I bet many of you tonight, you're going to be going, oh my gosh, that's totally my story. And tonight, as you take this time out, which I'm so grateful you're here tonight, because I do believe this is the kind of things when you hear this, you're going to say, I need to share this with somebody I love. I need to take this in for myself. Because when I look at my genetic history, I've got cancer, I have addiction, I have heart disease, a lot of mental health issues in my family, genetically going back literally generations. So when I look at the idea of gene expression, or I look at genetic heritage, it's really easy for me to go, oh my goodness, that is not a pretty picture. And am I destined for having some of these challenges that my family, my parents, my grandparents, my great-grandparents had? And the good news is, and I'd love to kind of walk as we do this experience of genetics, the idea of epigenetics, and you may have heard of this term. Epi, you probably know, means above. In genetics, this is like above your genes. How do we literally live above our genes? How do we kind of extend a different level of living beyond our genes? And this is, to me, why this topic this week number 5, is maybe one of the ways that we can literally start bringing together all of this information. And hopefully when you go to bed tonight, or when you extend some of this information, you text a loved one, you tell someone downstairs after watching this, you go, oh my goodness, these 3 things we are going to start doing immediately. And when I think about genes, I love to kind of look at this. I'm going to date myself again. I just turned 58 on Monday, by the way. So I'm coming off a birthday, and I love birthdays. I love getting older. I love the perspective I get with each and every year. And I feel so grateful to God that this is the thing I get a chance to do, which is learn of these last 58 years, some of the things that medicine has taught me, but more importantly, what life has taught me, what being married for nearly 30 years, what being a dad, what working with literally thousands of patients over the last nearly 30 years has taught me. And one of the things I want you all to kind of maybe envision right now, if you're in that group, maybe somewhere north of 45 to 50, remember these things called juke boxes? It's like, I'm sure many are going, oh my gosh, do I remember that, sitting in a little booth and having that little miniature jukebox? Well, think about this. So I like to look at genes almost like a jukebox. In the jukebox, you've got tens of thousands and all kinds of millions, all these genes, all these songs. So think about the jukebox almost like all these songs. And each of these songs is like a gene. And you get a chance, the same way when you were sitting in that booth as a little kid, you kind of choose a song that you loved. You chose a song that represented something that made you feel good, made you want to dance, gave you a memory that made you feel very positive, just brought up a lot of positivity for you. And there's some other songs in the jukebox that you go, you know what? I just don't like that song. That song, it grates on my nerves. That is not something I want to listen to. Well, we get an opportunity, much like the jukebox, to choose our songs. We get a chance to kind of help, if you will, certain genes to be played. And if we make the right choices, or more of the choices that promote the things that make our genes happy, that make us happy, those genes are the ones that come forward in our life and are literally the ones that play for us. Think about that. You've got all these genes, and all these genes are doing what they do. Some of them have a history that isn't so healthy. Some of them have a history of things of diseases and certain things that you know that you've carried from your family's heritage and history. But you also know that there are things that you're learning today and you're going, oh my goodness, if I knew I could just play these songs that are associated with my longevity, my happiness, my joy, my gratitude, how would that change the way you looked at each and every day? That literally you get a chance to choose the genes that you want to play. And you get a chance to choose the way that you want your life to be reflected. And I want to begin tonight, something I haven't done before is I want to actually share a quote. I love Stoic philosophy, and I'm not sure if you've read anything from Marcus Aurelius, but he's one of my favorite Stoic philosophers. He said, your mind will take the shape of what you frequently hold in your heart. Your mind will take the shape of what you frequently hold in your heart. For the human spirit is colored by the impressions of love. I love that. The human spirit is actually created and colored by those of which you love. So tonight, as you kind of start to think about, oh my gosh, I'm going to get a chance to maybe start playing the genes that really fortify my happiness, that fortify my peace of mind, my vitality. I'm going to really enjoy learning about what I've kind of created here. I've got a top 20 list. It seems like some of it's been so great. Many of you have private messaged me and say, okay, James, love all the different things we're doing here, but I literally love when you give me a list. You say, here's the 10 things you can do for X, and here's the other 10 things you don't want to be doing. So what tonight I've created, I've got 20 things I'm going to share with you based on science that are literally about the 10 things that you want to be doing, but also the 10 things that you do not want to be doing, hopefully much longer. Or maybe after tonight you go, I think I'm done with that one. That one does not work for my genes. That one's not supporting my genetic expression. I'm going to change. So we're going to start with the first 10 that are based on unhappy genes. These are the things that actually kind of promote the songs, back to the jukebox metaphor, that reinforce unhealthy gene expression, which can create a higher risk for certain diseases. Certainly will lower the sense of vitality and joy that you feel in your life. So this is something I want to begin, and I think you're going to kind of go, oh yeah, that makes a lot of sense. But a couple more, you're going to go, wow, I never looked at gene expression this way. And I'm really excited about this. So number one, stress. Generally speaking, stress definitely impacts, unfortunately, unfavorably for gene expression. And that seems kind of obvious. Interesting enough, number two, and this one's so hard, you don't want to be judgmental, but I always encourage my patients, I say, do a fearless friend inventory, which basically means you kind of look around your circle of friends and go, any of these people kind of, are they kind of a bummer? The complainers, the gossipers, the ones who, I don't know, they don't elevate your mojo, they kind of steal your fire. Sometimes you call them energy vampires. And I know, again, this isn't a judgment thing. It's just an observation of certain people we have in our life. They may be people that we love, but we just kind of go, I got to create a little bit more distance every day with this person, maybe too much. Maybe it's once a week. Sometimes we call them toxic people. And that sounds a little harsh, but what genes know is that the more we spend time with people who make us feel defensive, make us feel unworthy. These are the emotions that we've done through science. Feeling defensive, feeling unworthy, or feeling like we start to want to kind of compare ourselves. Those are the toxic emotions that we want to steer clear of when it comes to gene expression. This is interesting. Unfulfilling work, number 3 on the list of unhealthy gene expression. Number 4, sitting too long. In fact, there have been probably 20 studies in the last 5 years that have equated sitting with shortening our life. Literally, sitting too long will actually shorten our life expectancy. So what the study said is that if we can get up for 5 minutes every hour and just stretch, go for a quick 5-minute walk, just do some kind of yoga work, whatever the case may be, just 5 minutes out of those 60 minutes can literally neutralize that unfavorable gene expression. So that's something I believe all of us can do. This, though, really struck me. Number 5, pessimism. In fact, they actually did a study on pessimism and cynicism in its relationship to watching too much television, particularly the news. I mean, I think that maybe one of the things we could do this week, here's a fun goal. It's a hard one. What if we all media fasted between now and next Wednesday? We literally said, you know what? I'm going to take 7 days off from the news, or I'm going to take 7 days off from whatever digital platform tends to kind of bombard you with stuff. You kind of go, ooh, boy, I didn't want to see that. I didn't want to read that. Take 7 days, because according to the research, anything that promotes pessimism and cynicism literally gets in the way of unhealthy gene expression. Number 6, eating when you're full. I love this. And it actually goes back to the Okinawan research on longevity, where they have something this everyone says, what's going to be the Scrabble word this week? Well, it's hara haichi bu. Hara haichi bu, which is an Okinawan word. Remember, Okinawans are part of the blue zones all over the world, these places where people live long and strong and amazing quality of life. Hara haichi bu says that you should eat till you're only 80% full. And when you do, you actually decrease inflammation, and particularly a direct association with gene aging and gene expression. So that's pretty awesome. And how many times, and it's like a support group for me. My name is James. I have found myself sometimes just wandering through the kitchen, opening up the refrigerator door and staring in there when I know I'm not hungry, but emotionally I'm not in a good place, or emotionally I'm just kind of, I'm disconnected from my heart. And sometimes when I'm disconnected from my heart, I open the refrigerator door or I go to the pantry and I'm not hungry. But if we actually add calories into our body when we're not hungry, just based on emotions or stressful eating, it actually promotes aging of our genes. Number 7, hanging around with people who gossip. Yes, interesting enough. And this is something, we could talk about this for hours, but there's so much good science today that really talks about this idea of peopling your life well, like really looking at your associations and knowing the more we decorate our life with optimism, with positivity, and with love, our genes favorably respond to that environment. And it goes back to that fearless friend inventory. Just really take an inventory of the people you spend time with. And it's not easy. Listen, I live 2,000 miles away from some of my family for this reason. Between the alcoholism and some of the unfortunate habits that are inside of me genetically, that I needed to I need to go someplace to start new. I need to go someplace and begin again. And now 30 years later, I'm in a place where I get a chance to kind of rebuild a lot of my history and create a new history for my family, for my kids. It's been it's been healing, to say the least. I think it's changed my life. Number 8, worry. Worry actually changes gene expression for the worse. Distraction. In fact, a recent study talked about something called phubbing. I know you're going to go, that's not a word. Well, you can actually Google phubbing, phubbing, which means that when you're with a loved one, and the loved one, I don't have my phone here, but we've all done this, right? You're with someone you love, but you get a text. You immediately just look away from the person that you're with and you look into your phone. That's phubbing. And studies show that that type of distraction creates unfortunate gene expression or unhealthy gene expression for you and the person that you just phubbed. And number 10, I love this. And this is something I think all of us are going to go, oh my gosh, this is perfect. Being too comfortable. Being too comfortable. I remember as a little boy, my dad used to say, you know, the goal in life is to get comfortable, pursue comfort. But now we know our genes actually love adventure. It loves transformation. It loves to evolve. Our genes do best when there's something that we're doing that pushes up against our edges. The outdated beliefs, the things that no longer serve us, the way that we used to lead our life, the things we used to think about. Think about what Marcus Aurelius was just saying, this whole idea of what we think makes impressions on our heart. And now we know the way that we're doing all of these things, which can become very comfortable, just become who we are. That type of comfort can literally encourage unhealthy gene expression. So we don't want to be too comfortable. We want to lean into our edges. And here is leaning into our edges. Oh my gosh, you guys, this is so fun because these are the 10 things that science is telling us. If we adopt these, we integrate these. And I've got 10 of them. So I would love you to say tonight, I'm going to choose one of these. This is going to be my positive gene expression goal, my intention. The thing I'm going to literally own, I'm going to work on it, I'm going to do all that I can to put this into myself and have it be the thing I just go, this is the linchpin. This is the thing I pull every single morning that pushes my gene expression in a healthy direction. And sometimes we go, what? Well, that sounds great to have healthy gene expression, and maybe it's going to help me to live longer, possibly stronger, help me to prevent certain diseases. But I think underneath all of this is joy, gratitude, feeling a sense of hopefulness. What we know, when your genes are working on your behalf, when you're kind of orchestrating the happy genes, the healthy genes to be the ones that you're calling on, what does that feel like? It feels like being wildly alive. It feels like you have this sense of zeal for possibility. You have this way that you've literally dedicated yourself to the next evolution of your own personal revolution. I think that's a way to think about it. So 10 of them. Pick one. In fact, I would love it, love it, love it if all of you would tell Brenda through the chat, share with Brenda, this is one I'm going to take to heart. This is one I'm going to own. So number one, prayer or meditation. As little as 2 to 4 minutes a day. Remember last week we talked about mindfulness? 2 to 4 minutes a day of mindfulness or prayer promotes healthy gene expression. That's a layup, you guys. That's when it's easy. Number two, this one is so Kensington. This is the DNA of Kensington. Expressing love. Expressing love promotes healthy gene expression. In fact, there's been great studies done on telomerase, the enzyme that protects our DNA and facilitates longevity at a deep genetic level. The more that we're expressing love, the more that our DNA is dancing its happy dance, and the more we have an opportunity to live longer and stronger because we're doing just that. So I've been a part of the Kensington community now for a couple of months. This is you. This is woven in the fabric of who you are. But being intentional about it, like when you're doing your love, when you're living your love out loud, pay attention. Sometimes it becomes so automatic, and that's beautiful. That's just that easy for you. That's just who you are. But what we know from science is that when we're very intentional about doing it, and we know that's doing this awesome stuff for our genes, it even augments the potential and the power of the practice. Number three, satisfaction. Now, let me unpack this with you, because satisfaction comes from the Latin. There's a Latin word, satis, which means enough, and then taking enough action. What satisfaction means is that when you are in your life and you look at your potential and you think to yourself, you know what, is unrealized potential, is it a burden or is it a blessing? When you see it as a blessing and you say, oh my gosh, you know what, life satisfaction is kind of moving up against your edges in pursuing the unrealized potential. It's that ability to spend time with someone and really be fully present. It's the ability to be with yourself when you're in those places where you're questioning whether or not you're worthy of a change in your life. It's when you're questioning whether or not you're ready to change some things in your life. That is what satisfaction means according to the science. Taking enough action. And that's like an integrity thing, right? I often think about my own life as a father, as a husband, as a doctor, as just a person trying to do the best I can in the world. Am I taking enough action? Am I too comfortable? Do I look away from strangers, or do I look them in the eye? Even with a mask on, do I smile? Am I kind, even when it's not easy to be kind? That's life satisfaction. Number four, creativity. In fact, there was a beautiful study that was done on people who won the Nobel Prize in science. They've actually looked back at the last 4 decades of Nobel Prize winners in science. And guess what they found out? They found out that the person who was most likely to win the Nobel Prize, they had a side gig. They had a side hustle that had nothing to do with science. In fact, if they were doing like community theater, or they were painting, or they were doing poetry, they were doing anything in sort of the performing arts, their chances of them winning the Nobel Prize, or the chance that that person won the Nobel Prize, were 4-fold greater than a very smart person who didn't have a side hustle and creativity. Think about that. I play the drums. I'm not very good at it. I'm learning 3 new languages right now. Not good at that either. Remember, I'm dyslexic. So creativity for me is a challenge, But I know now from the science, I'm going, oh my gosh. So think about what you could do or what you already do, but remember to name it and be intentional about it because your genes will be loving that. Number 5, getting outdoors. We know that there's something called Shinrin Roku, which is forest bathing. And research shows that literally just getting under a canopy of a tree, I'm looking outside right now with 5 feet of fresh snow, literally. And what research tells us, in fact, they did a study in Chicago where people who commuted in a car or a train versus someone who walked at least 1 block under at least 5 trees. Think about that. 1 block under 5 trees. Guess what happened? Their genetic expression when they entered the office was like multiple times stronger. Their emotional resilience, their stress levels were lower. Their happiness was up just because they walked under 5 trees. Oh my gosh. So if that's the one we choose, just think about that. Oh my gosh, before I walk into work, before I walk home, before I do anything, I'm going to stop and get under a tree. I'm going to count my blessings. I'm going to touch my heart. I'm going to say, you know what? Good for you. That's love. That's love. Number 6, being appreciated. Being appreciated actually helps with gene expression. So when you're doing your fearless friend inventory, please make sure there's someone in your circle that is absolutely your cheerleader, absolutely who loves you. You know, one of the things there's really no way to put this into the right frame, but I'm just going to go ahead and just shoot from my heart. Think about what we've been doing this last month and a week. We're kind of in a safe place where we can just open our hearts and, be open about everything about life, the struggles, the possibilities, the things that we yearn for, the things that we're, working through in the areas of shame and vulnerability, whatever the case may be. This is an opportunity to kind of make sure you have that person in your life who says, you know what, you got this. I see the gold in you. I love you. You do have the worthiness. Or if you know someone and you're saying, oh my gosh, that person needs to be appreciated, you step in and you become that person. Because the research shows that you being an appreciator, not just being appreciated, but being the one who appreciates, helps you and the person to have positive gene expression. That one's beautiful. That's number 6. Number 7, setting long-range goals. Just having something to look forward. Go back to that idea of purpose, back from week 4. Number 8, you're going to love this one, I promise. It's intentionally breaking a sweat. So yes, exercising helps with gene expression. And what's cool about this, I love to say, sweat your prayers every morning. So don't get on the treadmill or go for a walk, begrudgingly. Just say, oh my gosh, I get to. In fact, the phrasing of I get to versus I should also is associated with positive gene expression. I get to move my body. I get to get outdoors. I get to appreciate a friend. I get to. When you get to, your genes get to too. Love that. Number 9, raising your routines to rituals. In fact, a study was done on the brain where they said when people just kind of have routines and they kind of mindlessly just do automatic pilot or autopilot, it can be helpful. But when you actually get very intentional and you take a routine into a ritual, which is, I do this because I get to do this. I remember talking to James about this, about life satisfaction or creativity or expressing love, and I'm very intentional. That's when it becomes a ritual. And that's when your genes are most happy and most healthy. And number 10, this one I saved for last because it is literally Kensington. When we serve, when we are giving of ourselves, when we are taking our sacred sauce and spilling it on the world around us, taking care of people, taking care of the things that we love. Selfless service, just being of service. There's an expression in medicine that I used to say. I was in my residency, and I'm going to share a story with you next week. I'm going to save it to next week because I want this to be something that hopefully you will come and just listen to this story. It's about a woman who changed my life during my residency. And she taught me this. It is, you are alive to the degree that you serve. You are alive to the degree that you serve. Now, she said that to me like 30 years ago. before any of this gene epigenetic research was even out there. But she knew that and she lived that. So every single one of you in this community is excelling. You are varsity when it comes to gene expression through serving others. But I want to make sure you really hear this part. Taking 1 or 3 or 7 of these, whatever one that you choose to take from a routine to a ritual, and by beginning with this idea, but my service has to begin with me. That's what the science tells us. But I'm not necessarily totally enamored with science as being the be all end all. Actually, for me, spirituality is the be all end all. You know that serving yourself and doing it from a space of grace and love and acceptance is your secret sauce. When you put yourself at the top of your to-do list and you're not honorable mention, you begin each morning, you say, when you wake up, whether in good God morning, it's good morning, God. You wake up in the morning, you put your hand on your heart. Remember we talked about oxytocin. You have a ritual that you have established, a non-negotiable. You know, a lot in relationships, we say unconditional love. I believe in conditional love, meaning that we need to learn how to love ourselves in all conditions. When we're down, when we're up, when we're challenged, when we're scared, when we're full of joy, when we're full of gratitude, love in all conditions. And let your service be that you have learned to love yourself, prioritize your own self-service in all conditions. When it's not convenient, when you don't have the time, when it would be so easy to give to someone else, you heroically and courageously chose to give to yourself first, because you knew if you did that, you were going to be able to go out in the world and do amazing things, beautiful things, contagious things. Because you began with your own evolution, you went out in the world and created a revolution. The world right now is desperately seeking demonstrations of hope. And I think this list of these 10 things, meditation, love, satisfaction, creativity, getting outdoors, being appreciated and appreciating others, setting long-range goals, sweating your prayers, raising your routines to rituals, and then serving with your heart out loud. I think we can do this. So I would love, as people are kind of bringing this forward, as Brenda comes in, to share. I always go a little long. Thanks for letting me. And Brenda, I'm hoping that maybe 1 or 2 of our community members are going to be willing to say, you know what? Yeah, I've got a couple of my unhappy gene expression practices that I'm going to work on. Maybe the toxic friend group, gossiping, distractions, fubbing. What do you think about fubbing, Brenda? Isn't that amazing? I mean,
I love that.
Who has never been fubbed in their life, or who has been a fubber, right?
I love that word.
It's a great word. And Brenda, you can totally Google that. It'll come up. It's a real word.
Oh, absolutely. And I can see that people like that word too. And actually, we have someone who commented if you could post all of the things that you're talking about, the 10.
Of course.
Will that be on the Facebook group?
I'll put it on Soulful, our Facebook group tomorrow morning. I'll put it up there for everybody. But hey, you know what? I'm going to make a deal. I'll put them up there. But 1 or 2 or 30 of you need to say, this is the one I'm going to own. This is my positive ritual that I'm going to, so other people can see it. You know, this is contagious if we see other people kind of jumping in ahead of us and we go, okay, the water's good. We can go in too.
I mean, the things that you're talking about are easy. They're not difficult. I mean, getting outdoors,
right?
Getting outdoors to me is one of the most simple. Right?
I mean, and isn't it interesting, Brenda? They equated it to getting under a tree. That was the magic. So if we can go get under a canopy of a tree for a few minutes or walk under some trees, that's when the genes really do their happy dance.
I mean, you talked about being appreciated and being an appreciator. I really like that word. You know, just telling someone, wow, you did a great job, you were good today. Those things are so important. And I think, I mean, again, to me, that's just such an easy thing to do, right?
Right.
Um,
Brenda, maybe if anyone would be willing to share, like going, gosh, James, when you were reading your family history about like addiction, cancer, heart disease, that's my gene pool. That's my genetic history. And when I heard about epigenetics, I was thinking, oh my goodness, this biology of belief and how we can literally help to kind of reorchestrate the way this jukebox of gene expression, choosing these songs. Anyone tonight go, yeah, oh my goodness, I've got that family history. And this helps to give me a sense of hope and maybe kind of encourages me to think, I can change some things here.
with the simple, like you said, do one of them, do all of them. And I have somebody here who says that she's a tree hugger. I love that expression.
You know what? There is a study that was done on just the tactile experience of being in the experience of hugging a tree. And they say our fingertips connect to a part of the brain that is associated with compassion and empathy.
Oh.
So tree hugging is medicine.
There's something to it.
It is medicine.
I have somebody who's saying expressing love and selfless service belong together for me.
You know, isn't that something? I mean, that to me is Kensington, right? A community of people who just go all in on serving, all in on loving. It almost is just like, well, of course it's my love. That's how I do my love.
Absolutely. I do have somebody who has a question here. It says, in reference to sitting too long, what do you think of those desks where you stand and do your work?
Well, whoever that might be, that's what I'm doing right now.
Are you ready?
I'm at a standing desk. I'll take a picture of it and post it on Facebook tomorrow. But I stand all day, and some people say, "Well, that's a little over the top." But you know what? Do you guys ready for this? I'm going to push a button, and you're going to see my desk go down.
Oh, look at this.
So
you're standing.
I'm standing the whole time, and now
I did not know that.
I'm going to raise my desk. So yeah, I'm a big believer in standing desks. But you don't have to stand all day. I'm a little bit of a zealot. But I do believe that a standing desk, even the ones they have those temporary versions where it has a little kind of a little apparatus where you can actually lift it up. You can push a chair away and you can stand for 15 minutes out of the hour. That is magic for this whole idea. And what I love about that, was that study that said when we're too comfortable, our genes become unhappy. When we're too uncomfortable, too comfortable.
Right.
So leaning into our edges, which, gosh, Brenda, you and I were talking about this with the whole team beforehand. This has been an experience for a lot of us going, wow, I have to really examine some of the things that I've become very comfortable doing. And maybe I can actually push my edges and see there's some more growth opportunity here for me.
And challenge yourself, right?
Challenging yourself and feeling alive and going, oh my goodness, this is an area that I know I'm scared to do. I love myself this deeply, appreciate myself, prioritize my self-care. Yeah, your genes love it.
So we have time for one more comment, and it says, please include it in the email you send us. So in other words, and folks, you will get an email at the end of the series because we want to have you have Dr. James's contact information, but we will include some information from the entire series. I don't want to put everything in there because it'll be 10 pages long, but also I have a comment here. The Facebook group was called Soulful You, S-O-U-L, capital F, capital U, capital L, capital L, Soulful You. So if you go into Facebook, you'll be able to see this information on Dr. James's Facebook group, right?
And what we do, we put a video in there every single morning that's between like 4 and maybe 5 minutes. That usually is talking about some of the things that we talk about every Wednesday to kind of reinforce things. And we would all love if you'd go there and just kind of leave your comments. Kensington was heroic, and Brenda, Susan, the whole team, you were heroic to put this out in the world. This is the kind of information that makes us all kind of go, oh my goodness, it's giving me so much to think about. But you've allowed this to come out in a way that we could actually feel it, as opposed to just list a bunch of stuff that we should eat this, we should exercise this way. I think what I really love most, Brenda, is that you've given me the opportunity to let me speak always from my heart about what I know clinically is good and true, but make it so it's something that we're inviting all this community to feel like this is something that we can all be a part of. I mean, we live and leave legacies every moment of our life. Sometimes we think about a legacy as something we leave behind when our life is over. Every interaction that you have with yourself, with other human being, is a legacy. And the more that you leave legacies of love and attention and intention, think about gene expression being that way. Legacy, 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 legacy. Thousands of legacies every single day, because you opened your heart and you loved in that way.
You know, everything that you're saying, we like to hear you because your energy is infectious. And the things that you say is honest, easy to do. And it's not that you're reading from a technical book, that these are technical things. And I think they're easy things to adopt. And as I'm saying that, the chat box is blowing up with comments, inspiring. Thank you, Dr. James. Yes, the recordings will be available at the Kensington website. You could go to www.thekensingtonwhiteplains.com. Absolutely. So folks, I do want to wrap up. Again, remember, you can go to Dr. James's Facebook page, Soulful You. You'll get some great information, some nice tasty tidbits, I like to call them. And I want to thank everybody for joining us today, especially Dr. James. I want to thank all of my colleagues at the Kensington. You know, folks, it takes a village, and it takes a village to put this wonderful presentation and the series together. So I especially want to say thanks to Susan James. Remember to stay until the very end. You'll see the slide with information on how to contact Dr. James, also the Kensington. And remember, the last part of the series next week, that is March 31st.
The last day of the month, Brenda.
That's right. That's right. And it's 6:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So please mark your calendar, and we'll see you next week. And thank you all for joining us tonight.
Thank you, everybody. Much love and all blessings. Please take good care. Good night.